Welcome to the finale of Dad Rock Month, Batch 1. I will probably do this again next year, but yes, today we are looking at Van Halen. Always was a band on my radar, just never really went out of my way to listen to everything. Well, that of course did change. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into one of guitar's greatest heroes, Eddie Van Halen. Yeah, so I was really interested to hear if Van Halen 3 was just as bad as everyone said it was. And I don't think it is. I don't think it's really terrible. However, it is a bad Van Halen album for sure. Everything that made them signature is completely absent on this album. Year to the Day is the only song that even remotely comes close to sounding like a Van Halen song. And then you have songs like Once and Josephina that are just kind of miserable to listen to. It was way too long, missing that key signature vocalist. Not a fun album to listen to, but it isn't the worst thing ever. And up next we have Sammy Hagar's last album, Balance. And honestly, just by this point, I was so sick of hearing his voice that it just kind of naturally followed underneath everything else. It is perhaps, if I heard the albums backwards, maybe it wouldn't be last, but you know, I think it's pretty lame overall with songs like Take Me Back, Can't Stop Loving You, Not Enough, which is them just trying to be Journey and it just doesn't work at all. It's not very memorable. There's a few decent songs, like the last half of Feeling was pretty good, and then you have whatever this is. I think it had a pretty cool drum interlude into the track. But yeah, man, every time Hagar goes like, ah! Like I just got so sick of it, man. So sick of it. And up next we have OU812, and kind of like Ozzy's Osmosis album, you will find this album every single time you go into a music shop, like a used CD store. Every single time they have this album in there. And yeah, it's not surprising why. I mean, it's not very interesting. Like, Naturally Wired and Source of Infection are fun. Not amazing, but they are at least highlights on this album. Like, compared to their other songs, they're nothing. But on this album, they're okay. The blues, there was a blues song on here that kind of stood out. I'm not going to remember any songs off this album. So, yeah, it's just bland. Very bland. And up next we have Diver Down, and the only reason it's this far down is because half this thing is covers. So it barely even counts. So, like, as good as Pretty Woman is, I can't really count it towards it because it's not their song. And, like, yeah, Little Guitars and Full Bugs are decent. Happy Trails is a goddamn masterpiece. It's kind of like the King Crimson Barbershop Quartet song. Absolutely fantastic. I just love the solo vocal, like, doo-wop songs. I think they're so fun to listen to. And yeah, I guess the story is that the stupid label was like, yeah, we need another album because, yeah, we need an album every single goddamn year. So they just covered a bunch of songs because they didn't have enough songs. So, seriously, man, all these stupid labels and corporate people, every single time they mandate like a release date to be pushed way before it's actually done, it's always worse. Every single time. Okay, so maybe a little hot take, but Van Halen 2 is kind of a lot worse than the first one because a lot of it is just like what a lot of bands did back then. They just take all their leftover songs that didn't make it to the first one and they throw it on the second one, and it's just never nearly as good. Like, Dance the Night Away, of course, is like the only big song on here. Get Me a Doctor was okay. DOA just sounds exactly like You Really Got Me, which was kind of weird. Like, alright, that's interesting song choice there. And yeah, only song I'll ever remember on this is Dance the Night Away. So, not a big fan of this one. And up next we have F.U.C.K. for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. Yeah. And just like I was talking about with Balance, how I was just so sick of Hagar's voice, the same thing on this one, except this one happened, like, by the time Man on a Mission came on, I was just kind of done with it, but it does have a couple of decent highlights on this. Judgment Day is pretty decent. Spanked is kind of funny, but also kind of dumb at the same time. Right Now has a great intro. The song has a lot of great moments. Basically everything besides the chorus. I really love the piano in this song. And Top of the World is solid. Like, you got a couple bops on here. And there's one song that I really hated, which was Man on a Mission. Because, I can't do the... I can't do that, but you probably know what I'm talking about. And then we have their final album, A Different Kind of Truth. And man, I remember when this album came out and they put Tattoo as the single, and I was like, wow, this is shit. Tattoo is a terrible song. And I was like, man, I don't even want to listen to that album. And it turns out that's the worst song in the album. So how about that? Like, Chinatown is solid. As Is has a really cool solo in it. I really like the lower tuning. Very unlike him. Kind of like when Yes busted out the down tuning in Big Generator. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's a really nice return to form, like to their old albums. I mean, makes sense because this was Roth's return. And Honey Baby got kind of a little weird, but nothing too bad. Like, it's just a good listen all throughout, minus the first song. And by the time Women and Children First gets to the end of it, it kind of loses steam, but honestly, pretty much every album they've made does that, at least up until this point, but at least has a different style to it. Like, Everyone Wants Some is pretty interesting. I really like how it starts tribal, but then it kind of goes into your standard Van Halen stuff. Fools was good. Romeo Delight was a higher tempo, so that was a nice addition. Yeah, just you can tell that stylistically it's a little different than the ones before, and that's cool. And 5150 is pretty solid. You know, for Sammy Hagar era stuff, surprisingly, this one is pretty decent. Why Can't This Be Love really works for me. Like, I feel ballads are, I'm either going to love them or absolutely despise them. Like what I just mentioned earlier with, like, the balance songs, like Can't Stop Loving You and Not Enough, all those, like, lame-ass ones. I like this one. This one's good. Get Up is pretty heavy. It has, like, double bass the whole song, which they did before, but it was nice to hear, too. And then, of course, then we have Dreams, which is probably the first Van Halen song I ever heard in my life, because that was in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie, and I loved that shit as a kid. Really liked the chorus in Dreams. If that song was on a later album when I got sick of his voice, might not have loved it then, but since this was the first one, I can give it a pass. But yeah, that's about it. Everything else on this album is pretty average, or in the case of Inside, really dumb. And the bronze medal goes to Fair Warning, and this is just a fun album. You know, you got Mean Street, you got Sinner's Swing, you got Unchained, which I feel like that was another song where I was like, oh, I know this song. I really know this song. I thought the song was called Hit the Ground Running, which apparently was the working title. So that's cool. I rediscovered this song. And then you have Push Comes to Shove is pretty damn smooth. Yeah, this is just a fun album. I think this would be a great summer party album to throw on. Good-ass album, but man, now we get to the GOATs. Man, there are just too many good songs on their first album. You got like the first 4 tracks straight up. I mean, yeah, Running with the Devil, excellent song. Eruption, one of the most iconic guitar solos of all time, perhaps the most iconic. And then their cover of You Really Got Me, pretty much it falls in that category that just like transcends the cover and it just sounds like they wrote it themselves. And then Ain't Talking About Love, Jamie's Crying is great. Feel Your Love Tonight is fantastic. I'm the One is pretty underrated because you got that really cool descending riff, and then the like the Shubata bridge. Like, how can you not love that shit? And then the Ooze and Little Dreamer are great. And you know what is that ending to Ice Cream Man? I swear that's like a music cliche thing. The what is that even from? I was always wondering that because I swear I hear that so often in like blues or I don't know what kind of music, but someone let me know, what is that ending from? But then we have Atomic Punk and On Fire aren't super great, but like doesn't matter. There's like what, 11 songs on this? 11 songs and only 2 of them are kind of meh. This is the 4th debut that we've talked about this month that is better than Appetite for Destruction. And somehow that stupid album is hailed as the best debut of a rock of all time. Get the fuck out of here with that shit, man. And yes, I will never stop making fun of Appetite for Destruction every chance I get. But anyway, that brings us into number 1. And honestly, I knew it was going to be number 1 before I even started listening to anything else. Jump, Panama, Hot for Teacher, and I'll Wait. And that is all I need to say about 1984. What a good-ass album. And I think there's more okay songs than the first album because, like, yeah, Drop Dead Legs, Girl Gone Bad, and House of Pain, I really don't ever listen to. Like, Top Jimmy's okay, but those 3, I'm like, nah. But those 4 songs, that's all I need. That's really all I need. And you know what? Alex has always been a pretty solid player, but I don't know what happened on this album, man. It's like he went into the hyperbolic time chamber for like 10 years and practiced crazy long because he really steps his shit up on this album. Like, his ride cymbal game in Jump is wild. And then, of course, you have Hot for Teacher, which, like, where did that come from? And where did it go? Why is that the only song that he goes, like, that crazy in? I don't know, man. But, yeah. For the last album, I think, that you can call, like, the classic Van Halen's, 5150, you can debate if that's a classic. But, like, yeah, as far as, like, the last Prime album, what a way to blow it out, man. Good, really good album. And that is going to conclude not only Van Halen, but Dad Rock Month here, first edition. Thank you all for tuning in to this marathon as I am already at work on my next one. And I suppose I could share when I heard the news about Eddie Van Halen, because everyone has a story, right? I was actually working at a Meijer. If you don't know what it is, it's your standard grocery store, all right? I was working at that, and I heard the news, and I was like, damn, man. Damn. So I went ahead and, because I was like stocking in the back, like stock room, unloading a truck, and I whipped out my headphones, started listening to either, I don't know if it was the first one or 1984, and Sue, my piece of shit old manager, oh my god, that pile of garbage, comes up to me and starts bitching at me because I had my headphones in, because, oh, if there's a fire and I'm screaming, oh, there's a fire, you're not going to be able to hear me, so, oh, you can't you can't have your headphones in even though there's a fucking guy right next to you working with you on the same fucking pallet, and he could easily just let you know, tap your shoulder like, hey, there's a fire, emergency, you gotta go. Yeah, because you can't hear me screaming fire, you can't listen to headphones. I'm like, bitch, motherfucking Eddie Van Halen just died. I'm going to listen to these albums as a tribute. God damn you. Anyway, that's my story. I will see you in the next one with another redo, and maybe after that we'll finally start getting into my song marathons. So I'll see you with that.